All right. So I want to welcome everybody and thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Accidental Entrepreneur. I think we're up to 215 now or something like that. If you're listening on any of your platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, please be sure to leave us a review. And if you're watching the video on our YouTube channel, then be sure to subscribe, hit the like button so we can get more followers, get some good content, good conversation, valuable information into the hands of people that need it. So I'm very excited because today I have a special guest who's not only a serial entrepreneur, he's great for the show, but he's a very good friend and one of my best friends. And I've been bugging him to get on the podcast for a long time, Mario. Thanks for coming on today. I don't know, where are you? Like around the corner from me? So we could,
yeah, pretty much.
All right. So today we're going to tell your story because I know your story is a really cool story about, basically you're just like almost self-taught about everything you do and you do it right. You're involved in masterminds and all kinds of stuff. And as an attorney, I'm your attorney too. And I've helped you with companies and you got all kinds of stuff going on. So I'm going to share some really good information. So why don't we go back? Like, some of the stuff I've never even asked you, like where you grew up, your upbringing, your education, the whole thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, first, let me say thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I mean, I think I'm a bigger fan of you than.
Well, you probably wanted to wait to see if we had any staying power, to see if we got a lot of episodes together. So.
No, always excited to support you and finally make it on. I'm very excited myself.
Cool.
Yeah. So
let's get started. Beginning. Yeah. Whatever you want to say.
So, real quick, I remember a while back, years ago, probably at this point, when you initially had the idea of starting the podcast. And I remember being incredibly excited, even about the name, The Accidental Entrepreneur, and the whole concept that you had on how most people that you've seen in your practice and in your journey and experience start a business, have no idea what they're doing, find a way, and go on to
they don't all find a way. That's the problem.
Right. I guess the ones that make it on the podcast.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And that concept is very similar to exactly how my story started and my journey on entrepreneurship started, and frankly continues to be. Day after day, year after year. There's no rule book. There's no handbook. It's a matter of believing in your vision, driving forward, and finding the way. So my story started, I'd say 11 years ago, which is how old my oldest business is, which is my martial arts studio, Caesar Kai Academy in Cranford, New Jersey. And it started that 11 years ago. At that point, I was 21, 22 years old.
You'd work for other, what are they called? Dojos or?
Yeah, it was
studios
working for another dojo.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Working for somebody for years. This is something I've done since I was 12 years old. And I washed dishes in restaurants, I sold candy, I was always entrepreneurial. I always wanted to have my own money and, find my own way. And at that point, just had kind of like a separation from where I was working. And it was the first time that I told myself, maybe I could do something on my own. No idea what I was going to do. I never went to college for anything. I don't even have one college credit to my name.
Okay. So you didn't even start and quit.
No, it's something I knew that I never really wanted to do, really. It's not something that spoke to me. I was an average student in school. I didn't get bad grades, but I had to stay focused on just finishing, because at that age, if it was up to me, I probably wouldn't have even finished high school.
Right.
I'm glad I did. My parents pushed me to. But
and listen, for all of our children that are listening who know Mario, my children, we're not advocating you don't go to college.
No,
but
definitely not.
But there really is no correlation between the people that we know that are successful and secondary, post-secondary education. Some of them are successful having come out of college. Some of them aren't. Some of them aren't successful having gone to college. It's just it's really the person and the drive, and it's not really the education that does it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the kind of like the turning point, being 22, not really having something to, fall back on, like,
Yeah.
what a lot of parents
So
tell
you
you.
weren't
So
like, oh, I'm going to open a dojo. You weren't even sure what you're going to do at that point.
no, I was
Okay.
completely unemployed
Okay.
at that point. And then the idea came, hey, maybe I can do something.
Okay.
So I put a flyer together. I made photocopies at Staples with, the little money that I had.
Right.
I started putting flyers on cars. I ended up getting a space in a basement of a church for free. And
But the
I
flyer
walked.
was like, we're offering classes, so come and
This was, the days before digital marketing and,
right.
Facebook being a vehicle, to get new clients. It was just me out in the community, trying to attract attention and get people to participate in these classes that I was hosting. And, one thing led to another. People started showing. We grew out of that basement. And then at that point, I was able to, lease an actual space and get a storefront and, enough money to really put a small business together.
Yeah.
And I started that journey just like a lot of entrepreneurs do. I was the guy. I did everything. I
Yeah.
taught classes. I did meetings. I signed people up. I answered the phone. I did the marketing. I did the budgeting. And it was really exhilarating, really,
It's a
especially in the
lot though.
beginning. It's
Yeah.
a lot,
Was it all a
but
kids academy at this point? Just kids
no, at that point
or
it was,
adults too?
yeah, it was adults, it was kids, it was
Oh, okay.
families, pretty, I
Got it.
mean, anybody that we could get.
Right. Do you want to pay? You come to class, we'll do it for you.
Anybody that we could
Yeah.
get.
Right.
Yeah. And, long story short there, that program continued to grow. We rented a bigger space. And so now we're in our Cranford location for 7 or 8 years, where we've been there, even though we've been operating for 11 since June of 2010. So, definitely an experience, celebrating our 10-year anniversary, which is definitely a big milestone in the middle of the pandemic. But it really put everything into perspective. The challenges in the beginning, growing it, building it, and then, kind of going through this unprecedented time and still being there, and that was a really exciting and, kind of mixed bag of emotions. But, hitting that 10-year mark was definitely really pivotal and exciting for us.
Yeah. So that was at that point, you only had one business, right?
No, at that point, at our 10-year, we're already, operating 4. I mean, so kind of like, again, going through the journey, somewhere in our 3rd or 4th year of operating the martial arts school, another opportunity came about, which was opening a franchise called the Max Challenge, which is our 10-week transformation
CrossFit, right?
program.
Yeah.
It's not a CrossFit program. It's definitely more health and wellness, some boot camp style, but we focus on.
But it is boot camp style, right? It's intense, right? Yeah.
Fitness, nutrition, motivation, that really perfect recipe for helping people make a transformation through a 10-week process.
Okay.
So we found a lot of synergy from opening the martial arts school, coming across this other opportunity. We were all in the same place. At this point, I still had just one physical location. And it was booming. We had, our doors open from 5 a.m. or even a little earlier. It's when our first class started, all the way to 9 p.m. between our max classes and our martial art classes. And
didn't you originally rent out the space to another operator and eventually bought him out, right? Or am I not thinking?
Yeah, no, that's actually, that's correct. And that's where, where the opportunity came from, because I was approached by the person who essentially owned the franchise territory where my martial arts school was.
Okay.
So they were looking for a space to sublease, and our facility was there. It's in a perfect spot. And, we had a lot of the right recipe for a business like that. And within a year, they didn't end up where they thought they would end up. And the opportunity kind of presented to me, hey, do you want to take this over? So for us, it was kind of like a no-brainer, because we were already there. Obviously, I've been in the industry for long enough to believe that I could grow that program. And we did. We took over. There was less than 25 people participating in the program. And then by 2 years after that, we were well over 250 participants just in that program.
Yeah.
4 classes a day. a 1,200 square foot floor. So it was,
Full all the
it
time.
was nuts and full.
Yeah.
And that's where we decided to then open a separate facility just for that program. And that's kind of like the, evolution of the second business, growing
Right.
it
But
from.
it shows you though, with the right person, with the right
Mhm.
drive and the right vision. I mean, did you change it that much for the people that didn't really make it? I don't think that much, right? It's a franchise. You kind of follow their program, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the franchise gives you the recipe, but as in all things, you have to execute it at the highest possible level, right?
Right.
So, simple things, and I see this even with the coaching and consulting that I do with business owners that I work with. At some point, a business can scale up to a certain point, and they lose sight of like the basics.
Right.
So in a service-based business like all of mine are, the basics are focusing on the people and really bringing them through the process of the beginning to bring them to the desired result that they want. So real simple things like answering the phone when it rings. You'd be surprised if business scales up and all of a sudden it's less of a priority. So, in our businesses, we have a rule: phone rings twice. If you didn't pick
Yeah.
up by the second ring, like there's an issue, it has to be fixed.
Nice.
But over time, that second ring becomes a third, and the third
Right.
becomes a fourth, and the
And then
fourth
people call,
becomes
they're
let
like,
it go to
too
voicemail,
busy.
and I'll
Right.
and I'll call back. So
Yeah.
real basic things like that, and again, executing it at the highest possible level. Um, you've been to a restaurant before, and you know the difference of when you go into a place and there's a host or a hostess there greeting you versus you walking in, standing around for 10 minutes and not being acknowledged.
Right.
That's another real fundamental thing that we've seen over time where, again, real basic thing. You have a new customer coming in, they've set an appointment, they know to be there at a certain time. You should be there ready for them, and
Yeah.
welcoming them, not them standing around for 10 minutes and saying, excuse me, can I have some attention? Because it just really sets the bar very low, and
It
it
turns
sets
them
the whole
off, right?
experience
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's always been a high priority for us, is making sure we're executing every part of our operation in the best way possible from the perspective of our clients, not just what we think is best, but putting ourselves in their shoes and designing our systems around what's going to service them the best and give them the best experience, because ultimately those become your best customers.
Advocate for your business, right? So is the
Right.
Max is not in that space anymore?
No, so the Max has been in a standalone facility for many years now. So once we basically doubled our floor space, we were able to expand our schedule, and that program really has grown tremendously over the last couple of years as well. So my physical locations are actually all in the same building, same strip mall essentially,
Right. Yeah.
separated by space, but they're all right there next to each other.
Okay. So it's not like you got to drive down the street to go to.
No, I just have to put shoes on and walk outside.
Oh, right. There's no
Which,
access from one to the other.
well, technically, so the third physical location I have is a company called Union County's Best Kids, which is
Right, I
a
remember.
full service after school program and summer camp.
Mhm.
Again, all businesses kind of have like a great synergy working together. Through the martial arts school, we're really involved with the school system. We saw that there was an opportunity there to expand our program in a different way and help parents with a need that anybody who works has, which is quality childcare and
Right.
affordable programs that are safe, fun, and just a great environment for kids after school. So Union County's Best Kids started 4 years ago. We actually just celebrated our 4-year anniversary there, and it's a fantastic program as well. I saw the importance of that particular business, especially through the pandemic when, the world was really closing down, but people still had to go to work, especially essential workers. They had no place to put their kids.
You were able to
So
stay open. You were considered an essential business.
yeah, we were able to open and operate, even through that first summer. We had no issues with any outbreaks, so we were really fortunate, but we had to pivot really quickly across the board, across all the
Right.
locations.
Well, the
But in that
Max
one,
wasn't as essential. All the
no,
gyms went
no.
online, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, March 16th, which was a day or two ago, which
Yeah.
was 2 years to the day where we shut down by
Yeah.
mandate and we could not operate. And then it was a few months later that Cranford's Best Kids or Union County's Best Kids got the okay that all right, you qualify to operate. But the other two physical locations were still completely virtual, which was full of challenges in itself, but we really
Yeah.
fought tooth and nail to do everything we could to keep our members engaged, to keep activities going for the kids, to keep the adults that we had physically moving and following a schedule, because it was crazy. We gave out like our fitness equipment. We were handing out weights left and right. People were taking them to their house so they could really participate and still keep it going. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we did a lot there. Yeah.
Yeah. You always have a lot going on. Now I know we're going to get into your other businesses, what else you're doing, but you always did something unique. I don't know if you still do it because I think you got rid of the space, but you used to have your office off premises.
Yeah.
So you could go and sit at your desk and do whatever you were doing away from everybody. So they wouldn't interrupt you. It's like the E-Myth, right?
Yeah. So that's a great segue, because it's
Yeah.
kind of like the second major point I wanted to make. In that journey, like I said before, I was like the guy that was doing everything. And
Right.
it got to a point where you kind of fall into that entrepreneurial trap where if you're not doing it, if you're not present, if you're not the one moving everything along, you have that fear that the business will fall apart.
Right.
And it's not just a fear. In a lot of cases, we without knowing, grow this business in a way where we are so it's so dependent on
Right.
the owner.
Yeah.
That
You're like a slave to your business now, just trapped.
You've created this job and you're trapped and you can't get sick. You can't go on vacation. Even if you do, you're full of stress and anxiety because you're really worried about your baby falling apart. So at that point is when I really started focusing on self-development, making myself better, right? As the leader, as the owner of this, of this enterprise that I'm trying to build. How does this survive, and how do I maintain the lifestyle that I initially wanted when I started it to begin with?
Right. It's kind of why we all do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of the big perks of being an entrepreneur if you can design it and get to that point.
Right.
So that's when I really started, focusing on, you brought up the E-Myth. That was definitely a very pivotal book in my mind, where my mindset really changed. And I realized that there is a much better way to do this than how I was doing it.
Right.
And I really started focusing on designing better systems, training and developing our team so that they could be able to execute the things that I thought I was the only one I should be doing.
Right.
Those things. And it's never the case, and I've learned over the years, a lot of times the team executes way better than I ever did. And it just makes the whole experience better.
Right.
But going back to your point, in that process, I decided to get an offsite office really just dedicated to building and working on the business and not just in it. I don't have that space anymore. There was pros and cons to it. A lot of the positive things were, and I guess I'll just get into it because that's what we're here for. The pros were definitely the ability to like hyper focus. I wasn't being interrupted by people having questions, which, happens all the time. Clients wanting to talk, members wanting to talk, employees needing something. So I was really able to like project manage in a way that I never had been able to do before.
Right. And your business didn't fall apart when you were down the street.
No, as a matter of fact, it grew. Those were the years where we were really hitting record numbers and, breaking through these glass ceilings, because I think really a lot of it had to do with the fact that I wasn't there on the day-to-day. I wasn't micromanaging and trying to take over things, because that's just how my natural personality is.
Right.
Like,
well, as entrepreneurs, we get in the way and we don't realize it, right?
Yeah, you want to jump in and and do everything, and kind of like a mother bird kicking her babies out of the nest, and that's where they learn how to fly. My team really had an opportunity to excel in a way that they just hadn't before, and they did. So it was really great overall. But it does bring me to some of the not so positive or the cons of coming off site, which is you're not there. You can't see everything. And there's a disconnection that happens, right? I mean, I think for a lot of us, we get this energy, and when we're plugged into our businesses, when we're there, we're
That's
seeing it
true.
happen.
Right.
And, you know,
You're
at
down
first
in
it
a
was like,
quiet office with nobody there. You're just kind of focused on all
yeah,
the energy kind of goes away. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I definitely like listened probably to more music
Right.
in that time when I was
Listen
there
to
by myself,
podcasts.
because
Right.
yeah, I needed to, you know, bounce ideas, and I wasn't able to because I was there by myself. So, you know, I'd write things down. I'd have these whiteboards all over the walls. And I'm sure at some point I looked like some, you know, crazy Albert
Right.
Einstein kind of guy, you know, because, you know, I wasn't even combing my hair anymore because I had nobody to see. So I'm just
Right.
there
Who
writing on
cares?
the walls and markers everywhere. And, you know, but it was a great experience. And ultimately I decided if I time block properly, I could still accomplish the same things
Right.
while being on site more, interacting with the team more regularly, seeing members more regularly.
But it's a good experiment, right? I mean, because you learn, first of all, you learn to be self-sufficient, and you let your business be self-sufficient, and you learn that you could get in the way and that they can function, and it takes a lot of pressure off of you. I agree. I think that if it's something you could do for a couple of months or 6 months on a short-term lease, and then come back to the business, you come back with a clear head, you're more prepared to deal with it. And yeah, that's part of the entrepreneur. You got to time manage and time block and things like that, but definitely empowered your staff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pros definitely outweighed the cons for sure. And I think the kind of hybrid way that I'm doing it right now seems to be effective and working just as well. But I do feel like, just like when you go on a vacation or go to a seminar, like the ability to not be interrupted, the expectation is not for you to have to immediately respond to everything. It gives you the ability to focus in a way and accomplish projects in a way that you just may not have been able to do before.
Right. And I think now you have an assistant, right, that helps you handle all of your businesses, right?
Yeah. So as we kind of scaled up, you know, looking at the staffing structure of one business versus like the collective of all of them, there's a lot of crossover where, you know, one person dedicated to an area that kind of covers all the businesses has been really effective. So we have an office manager that kind of handles all the administrative work for myself, and then across the businesses we have a graphic designer and an event coordinator, because in the physical locations we're always hosting different types of events and, you know, conducting things in the community. So somebody that's accountable and organized to executing those things, it's been really helpful. But at the same time, maintaining a structure individually in the locations that are geared toward those specific businesses, and, you know, how we're able to grow them because of what's actually in there, who's actually in there to those roles.
Okay. So you want to talk about some of your other companies, or you want to talk about like your mastermind groups? Because I'm always curious. That's what I love about the podcast, because I get to talk to you about things that we don't always talk about when we're at a bar or whatever, hanging out. I'm always curious as to, like, you know, how did you get involved in mastermind groups? How did you find them? Because you go to a few that are really high powered groups out of the state. I mean, I talk to you all the time. Well, I'm not in town. I'm in Florida. You live in Florida now? No, just traveling. I'm in Chicago. Like, so you're always doing that stuff. And I was wondering what got you interested in, how'd you find the groups? Why do you find it valuable? Those types of things.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I could say without the shadow of a doubt, without that type of environment, I know I would not be the person who I am today in every way. Right.
Big testimonial. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've heard the expression, like, you know, the 5 people you surround, you're going to be the equivalent or the average to the 5 people you spend the most time with. Right.
Right. So,
and you've also heard the expression, like, it's lonely at the top. And sometimes, you know, again, over the years, building your businesses, you're kind of like in this seat, essentially by yourself. You could be surrounded by all your staff, you know, members, vendors, like, you know, you name it. It's not like you're physically isolated, but
no, but you're the pinnacle.
Right. You're in your mind, right? Like, you have all of these responsibilities that just no one else has. So it can get very lonely and it can get very difficult, especially as you're scaling up and wanting to continue to, to build them. So I decided for me to kind of get better and fuel myself, I needed to surround myself with people who are doing what I'm doing, running businesses the way that I am, wanting to be high performers, wanting to achieve and accomplish things that, that I had the desire to do.
Right.
So, at that point, we're in the, online era. You could, jump online, and if there's a specific part of the business, like for example, marketing is definitely an area of all the companies that I really am involved in. I pay a lot of attention to, because getting new clients is always going to be
business development, right? It's always important to you.
Yeah, always going to be important, right? So because we have a lot of great systems already designed to servicing our clients and keeping them happy and, keeping them there, how do we get new ones, right? So, marketing conferences, masterminds that ultimately are, teaching you about an area or several of business staff development, but it's mostly the ability to network and surround yourself and become close with your like-minded people who are
Right.
trying to, accomplish some great things. Some of my best friends today are people that I've met just in the last couple of years at these different type of events, but are really vested in their own growth and success in a way that either I am or that I aspire to be, because I see people, performing even better. And
well, that's perspective, right? Because you're top of the what do they say? If you never soar with the eagles, if you flock with the turkeys. And if you think like I'm here and everyone else is here, it's hard to grow. But then if you meet people that are so much higher, it becomes like, well, I can do that, whatever. And
absolutely,
right?
Yeah, and the more that I push myself, because it can be uncomfortable, and intimidating sometimes, but the more I push myself to be the small fish in the big pond versus the big fish in the small pond, the better my life has become, the more successful my businesses are, and ultimately the more inspiration I have to try and accomplish some great things. And through that networking, it also cuts the learning curve a lot, right? I mean, I remember reading a lot of Tony Robbins, forever, ever since I was like a teenager. And he said this one thing, and like it was literally on an audio cassette, like even before CDs were in cars, like I first started driving.
Right.
And I had like purchased this whole audio cassette.
Yeah. It's like a binder. Remember those things? They were all stuck in there and you pull them out.
Exactly.
I used to drive around and I'm a little older than you, but I used to drive around popping them in the car all the time.
And one of the things he said, and I'll never forget it, is the amount of time that it takes you to read a book. You are getting someone else's years and years and years of life experience in the time it takes you to read it in a book. And I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. So same thing going to these types of events, you're meeting people.
Sure.
And in the course of a conversation, you could get something that could literally just transform your entire business, your entire life. Yeah. And I that's why I'm excited to be on the podcast today, because, one thing that someone may hear from our discussion, maybe like that light bulb that says, hey, I have a way now to do that differently. So that's why I'll always invest the time and the money to participate in those types of things, because the return on that investment it's really immeasurable, and that's not including the actual like tangible skills, like, marketing trends and different ways for client acquisition that, you learn in those types of events as well.
Just the motivational stuff.
Right.
So are there groups that you're like a regular member of, or are these like conferences that you go to different times, different places, all over the place?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. So I am a member of certain masterminds, right now that are specifically geared toward working with coaches and people that are in my specific industry.
Okay.
How do we do what we do at the highest level, right? Like I can tell you for sure, I am definitely not the only martial arts school in my area. No. As a matter of fact,
a lot of them.
Yeah, and I had done this work pre-pandemic, so I don't know what it is now, but at one point there was over 50 different options in a less than a 5 mile radius from where we were.
There you go. Well, because no barriers to entry. If you know martial arts, you can
Yeah, I
open.
mean, exactly. And, whether or not any other particular place operates better than we do or has a better program, like if someone's looking for martial art classes for their kids, they're not going to 50 places to see which one is the
No, it's
best.
too much work.
Most
Yeah.
of them only go to the first one
Really?
that's closest to them.
Yeah,
And then you'll have some families that'll maybe check out two or three, but that's
that's
not
it.
the majority. In our fitness program, it is incredibly saturated in our market. I mean,
Yeah.
big box gyms, boutique studios, personal trainers, like on every corner. So
Yeah.
how do you stand above like that noise? And again, this is one of those reasons why how we perfect our craft. And that entails a lot of changing, right? Just because something worked 5 years ago doesn't mean it's going to work today. As a matter of fact, it typically means that it's not going to work today because those trends change so much. So yeah, I mean, again, I feel like as the owner, it's my responsibility to plug into those things to learn and then ultimately make the best decisions that I can for these businesses.
But that group is specific to the martial arts industry.
Yeah, that's one of them. And then of course I'm always like on email lists and I'm always online. And so social media does a great job in targeting specific ads toward me, and like I'm like scrolling, hey, that looks like something I'd be interested in. That's something that I want to do. Sometimes this is like an interesting one, and I haven't done in a while, but sometimes I have actually attended other industry events, right? Like hospitality, right? Because again, service-based
Yeah.
business. I don't own a restaurant. I don't manage a hotel, but I do know the difference between an amazing experience at a restaurant versus an amazing or a not amazing experience. So what are the things that they do in those industries, right? Kind of like that cross-pollination. I can take those things and apply it to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it just makes people like, wow, I've never expected to experience something like this here. And that's what we want. We want people to experience our services in a way that is very unique and different than they would get anywhere else.
Yeah. It's funny you say about looking and finding things and getting involved. That's kind of how we met. Well, it was how we met, right? I was
Yeah.
running the Entrepreneurs Academy in our town. And I guess you saw an ad or somebody referred, we were looking for mentors.
Mm-hmm. I
And
remember I was actually in Florida.
of course you were.
At a conference, and I was just waking up, and I kind of reached to the phone and looked at the emails and jumped online, and I saw a promo video that you had filmed. And even before I had met you in person, right there is when I found your contact information and sent you that email saying, hey, this looks awesome, and I'm local, I'm a business owner, I'd love to participate in some way.
Yeah.
And the
Well, it
rest
fits because you work with kids. So yeah, I know. Well,
Yeah.
we don't do that anymore. Unfortunately, we did like 4 or 5 years, right? And then and you and I ended up running the program, and then we kind of volunteered our way out of business, and we couldn't do it anymore.
It was a huge commitment, but I'm sure we both agree, and everyone that was involved in one way or another over the years, I'm sure agreed it was a great service for young entrepreneurs. And who knows what the future holds? Maybe one day
I
we'll
still hear
start
from
it
some
back
of the
up.
kids. I get
Yeah.
a LinkedIn message, from like Daniel, who went to Drexel, and there was a couple other kids from Union Catholic that went to some different schools. And my son was in the program. Just the other day, we were cleaning stuff out, and I found his little device that he made with his partner. So
it's funny how fast time goes, because they were freshman or sophomore, junior or senior in high school, and now they are actually on LinkedIn building their careers and all that. And
they've graduated and stuff. I know it
really
goes fast. But it's funny because as simple as that academy was, right? Writing a business plan, or we had simple templates for these kids. I find myself sometimes using that for clients. Like, it's just, there's nothing has to be complicated when it comes to fundamentals of like running and growing a business,
Right.
And
right.
I think people complicate stuff, and then it kind of shuts them down or makes them nervous, or they get overwhelmed. And then, like you said, they're back to just saying, oh, I'll just do it myself. And then they're still doing everything themselves. And there's no planning. There's no strategic approach. It seemed like very early on, you very much became focused on how do I do this, the right way. So it gives me the quality of life that I have. And there must be other people doing it the right way. And I want to find those people. And, maybe a little bit of luck involved, but I always feel like you make your own luck by, doing things the right way. And, you didn't go down the dark path of what did Mike Michalowicz used to call it? Entrepreneurial poverty, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely moments where that is exactly where I was, but always had the desire to do it better, right?
Yeah.
And to figure out a way to not feel like I was trapped, because it's like a terrible feeling, really.
Yeah.
It really is. And, in my case, the ability to step away, but not see the business go down, but in fact go up. Luck, I agree with you for the most part, for sure. We kind of create our own luck and we create our own opportunities, without a doubt. But, the more you work hard, the luckier you get. Right?
That's the truth, right? No, it's true. I mean, you don't just sit around waiting and things just, we got lucky. Lucky is like winning the lottery. I mean, you still got to buy a ticket, but, exactly. I agree. The harder you work, the more you work at things, the smarter you are, the more you read, the more you ask, the more you learn from people. Then luck plays away. It gives you a jump. You just happen to be there at the right time and you get lucky. And the reason you got lucky is because you went to that conference or you attended that event or you did whatever
100%.
Marketing thing you were doing for your business. And it just kind of,
Right.
you and I are always talking about that stuff.
And you know what, Mitch, to that point, and this better than probably anybody as my business attorney, as many things that I have done that have grown and become successful, I have had many projects and I've started other businesses or been involved with other businesses that were not successful.
Right.
And were challenging and ultimately failed in one way or another.
Well, the guy I had on this morning called them learning experiences. They're not failures. You learn from, and he has a lot of successful businesses too, but he said the same exact thing. Don't be misled and think that I've never had businesses that didn't make it or didn't struggle. I just learned from those and then moved on.
I fully accept that. And that's my light bulb moment reminder from being on here with you. They're really not failures.
Right.
Although at the time it's like, God, what a failure I am, like, I just can't believe that,
wasted your time, your money. Right. But it's always a movement towards something else.
Yeah. Like John Maxwell says, failing forward, we'll say learning experience forward.
Right.
But you got to keep moving forward. Right.
Yeah.
And I fully agree with your guest from the morning. No one should believe that the entrepreneurial journey is a vertical progressive straight line, and we've seen those memes on social media where it's like that roller coaster line going up and down kind of like the market, but it's still trending in an upward way over a period of time if you keep moving in that direction. But one day you could feel on top of the world, and the very next day you could feel like I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
Right.
And I've had many days like that.
Yeah.
But the drive, the push, the ability to, stay connected to your emotions and your belief that you are going to find a way. That's how I make it forward. And a lot of entrepreneurs do. I really believe that.
Yeah. I think following that mentorship and having a friend or somebody that you can be an advisor to, like I'm your legal advisor, but you're as much of an advisor to me. And we've had days where we just need to get off the mountain. It wasn't going well. We go grab lunch or grab a beer. We sit down and go, oh, this is just not working out for me. And then you would talk me off the mountain, or I would talk you off the ledge or whatever. And sometimes you just need people that are removed from your own situation to give you perspective on things that, it's usually not as bad as you feel, right? Or 9 times out of 10, it doesn't even happen the way you think it's going to. Oh my God, I got this thing in the mail and this is going to happen. That's going to happen. And what the hell? And then maybe I talk you off the ledge, you talk me off the ledge, and 9 times out of 10, it never happens.
It never even happens.
No.
Exactly.
And we always worry about things that we shouldn't.
Yeah. So that's, I think, one of the areas of the coaching and consulting that I do with business owners that I enjoy the most, because just like you said, sometimes when you're outside of the box looking in, you can see things in a very different perspective
Yeah.
than when you're actually in it yourself. And I, like you said, plenty of times that we're kind of bouncing ideas or different challenges off of each other. And you have helped me tremendously many times where I'm just like, I don't see a way forward. And you're like, well, what about this? And I'm like, how the hell did I not see that?
I've said that to
Totally
you
makes
too.
sense.
Right. Of
I'm
course.
going with what you said. It totally makes sense. And we find the way forward. But yeah, surrounding yourself with those like-minded people, just like we were talking about before, the different events that I go to, and company that I try to keep, and friends that I have around me. It is to strengthen those areas that are, sometimes needing to be reinforced. And that's what the amazing part of great relationships is.
Sometimes you just need somebody to smack you in the face and say, snap out of it.
Sometimes that's exactly what you need.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So what was the other question I was going to ask you? I know that you do coaching, but you are selective about who you work with, right? Because you only have so much bandwidth, I know, and
Yeah.
you're pretty particular about it. Because I don't want people
Yeah.
listening to say, okay, let's all call Mario and coach with them. I'm sure, and you would never say no. That's the problem, right? Because you love to help people, but you have to be select, because you can't help people at your own detriment, right? It's got to kind of fit with everything that you're doing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that's, the other great thing about building businesses in a way where you don't have to be involved in every aspect of it. It gives you the opportunity then to pursue, other things that you're passionate about. So, having been a martial arts instructor for so many years, and then, teaching in all the facilities, and then kind of shifting to focusing on the businesses and not in them, I learned a lot of skills and how to, grow my businesses specifically. And I've encountered many other small business owners that were in the same exact position that I was when I started making those changes for myself. So I focus on working with service-based businesses, typically, some brick and mortars, some product-based businesses, but typically service-based businesses that already have an existing team in place, few employees that are kind of helping run the operation. They're already making enough revenue to, cover expenses, but they're trapped. Yeah. They're the ones that, are afraid to get sick or afraid to go on vacation. They don't have the systems or operations in place for that next level to scale up and have the business still be successful and growing without them being involved in every aspect of it. So those are typically the entrepreneurs that I work with. And it's an amazing experience, especially, during the pandemic, when my physical locations were shut down. We had already shifted a lot of it to virtual. My trainers and instructors and coaches were, running the day to day and doing what they had to do for our clients. And I found myself with some, more time, and saying, all right, so what am I going to do now that this is happening in this way? And that's really where that business kind of started really scaling up for me, because now I was actively, promoting and searching and working with different entrepreneurs that were in that mold that I really wanted to work with.
Which business? The coaching business?
Yeah, the coaching business. Yeah. And it was an amazing experience. And, now that the world's kind of back to normal and we're running back,
quotes is normal. Yeah,
I'm quoting it. Yeah. But I feel that way generally.
Like the pandemic's over. I'm like, what planet do you live on? I mean, we're all back to work, but we're still, we're going to have mask days. We're going to, yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely quoting it, but
right.
Essentially we're running in the same capacity that we were pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So, this company is definitely something I'm looking forward to building more, spending more time on. And I love the, the butterfly effect, where one thing you do, you don't really know what the eventual outcome of that is.
Right.
And this is a concept that I really train with my teams a lot because, we work with individuals, whether it's kids or through fitness, and one experience that we give them, one class that they take, one interaction that they have, either with us or through the people that they meet in our places, you never know what the eventual amazing outcome of that could be.
Yeah.
So the same goes for business owners, but I see it like more magnified, right? Because if I work with an entrepreneur and I'm able to help them get to a level where they're operating better, more efficiently, living their life in a way that they didn't think that they could.
Right.
What is the eventual most powerful outcome that could happen from there with them and their clients and their families? So, I know it's like a very crazy macro perspective, but I try to stay plugged into that because I really do believe that there's so much good that we do. It's not just about making money. And I'm not saying me and like in we as in just me, but all entrepreneurs in any business, there is so much good work that happens behind the scenes that helps people in such a positive way.
Right.
That's
fulfilling beyond financial reward.
Super. Yeah. And I'll always try to stay connected to that as well.
Now you mentioned, I think you said in the opening that you have 5 businesses going on. So we got martial arts, we got Max Challenge, we got the kids after school program, we got coaching and mentoring. What's the 5th?
Yeah. So this is a newer concept that I'm really trying to, work with and get off the ground. And essentially it's an offshoot of the consulting company where marketing specifically is where I want to, kind of grow, almost like an agency type of thing, and working with different businesses in their marketing specifically system and organization to, help them promote their businesses.
So like a CMO type of an agency,
right?
Fractional type of a model.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about the concept of creating a business and a system in itself that is duplicatable, that is repeatable, that other businesses can kind of jump on with and say, okay, if I do these same steps, then this is the outcome that I'd like to get as well. So the wheels are always spinning.
Like
my
Facebook
expectation,
ad campaigns or Google or other kinds of marketing. And
yeah, all of the ways that we're able to reach our clients right now, just on a bigger scale, right? And obviously digital marketing and, website development is an important part of that for sure. Not even important, like essential for the most part, and at least a lot of the businesses that I work with. But it's one of those skill sets that is just that, it's a skill set. And a lot of people that I've worked with and that I meet don't take the time to learn that really, really important and necessary skill set.
Yeah. Well, I think, I forget who I was talking about the other day. You don't get to, I forget who it was, but they said to me, I really got to get back to networking, get out in front of people. And I said to him, it's not something that you stop doing. You need to build systems. I mean, you need to go and keep after people that and stay in touch with them, right? Whether it's on email or calling them or grabbing a drink or whatever, right? I call it my hot list, right? And then you have to have systems in place that you market and stay in touch and put out content on a regular basis. You and I have had this conversation a lot of times, and people, they don't understand and I'll put it in quotes also, right? Air quotes, the magic that happens from consistent messaging and consistent marketing. It doesn't happen overnight. And it doesn't happen if you put a post on LinkedIn and say, yeah, well, we put up 3 posts last month and nothing happened. Like,
it doesn't
what
work.
Are you kidding me? It doesn't work that way. No, because there's a lot of noise out there. Everybody's putting stuff and competing and this and that. And like you said, you have to have systems built in because it will be overwhelming. And just trying to figure it out on your own sometimes is just not even worth your time. The effort, and you might get it wrong, right? So and you've done it already, right? You've done the trial and error and the different things and whatever. And I think a lot of people miss that. Look, lawyers are just as guilty, right? They're getting business from their colleagues. They're doing this, they're doing that. Very few of them have, especially small practitioners, have an operational website, putting out regular content. That's why I started the podcast, so I can put good content out to hopefully educate people. And I do meet people through the podcast, but it took 8-10 months before People were actually seeing me and hearing me and believing that I couldn't even get you to come on the podcast for 3 years. So, but I think people
Calling me out again.
people really miss that. They miss the value of what you're trying to do and help them with. They don't realize until, like you said, they don't see the connection starting here and ending here until they get there. They're like, wow, Mario, you're right. Like we have a funnel now. We have activity.
You hit the nail 100% on the head. And I will reiterate what I said in the beginning of the podcast about the basics being always foundational and always essential. The magic keyword that you said was consistency. Yeah. And you're 1000% right. And it's something that I really focus on a regular basis, because just like working out, just like going to the gym, you're not going to get fit going to the gym once. You're not going to, you can go to the gym for 10 hours in one day and you're not fit. You're not going to get there. But it is the consistency of doing the right actions over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And that's like times infinity overs.
Yeah. You don't stop.
You don't stop. So
you're retired and you sell your companies and someone else takes it over, that's their problem.
Right. But those things still have to happen, right?
Of course.
It doesn't mean you have to do it, but those things still have to happen. And that consistency, some of the times it is because of so many other like stuff happening that we lose sight of the importance of it. Right. So like, again, it's that trap. As you begin to scale, you lose sight of those foundational things that even got you to that point of success to begin with.
Yeah.
And then the other part of it is just not seeing the value in the things you should be consistent in, because you're so consumed with everything else.
Right. You're overwhelmed.
So providing that same structure and organization and foundation to establish those strong baselines is what allows you to stay consistent in those tasks or, responsibilities that not only allow you to keep growing and scaling, but even past that.
Yeah. It's like writing down a strategic plan. You need to have a place to go back to say, you can't know that you strayed off the path if you have no path.
Right.
You might be off where you were intended, but you don't even remember what you were doing. Exactly. So, and you're very good at that. It's not, and that's why you've been successful. It's not that it's that easy, right? You've never said to me, oh, this is easy. It's not easy. It's hard. And it's hard to be consistent. It's hard to be committed to doing the same things over and over and over again. And you're right. Life can knock you off the horse like immediately. Personal things, things that happen you can't control, that don't affect your business, but do because it affects you. And it's very hard to do that. You got to fight that every day.
And a lot of times it's the things that are not like pretty, and the things that are not fun, and the things that are not exciting that really make the difference, right? One of the things that we teach our students, and actually that I even teach to my kids, because it's something that I believe really understanding what discipline is. And we define it really simple. Discipline is doing what you have to do no matter how you feel, right? You just remove the feeling out of it. It's something that has to get done, so you do it. I know it's simple, but it's true. And committing to those parts of running your organization, running your business, growing your business, whether it's in the marketing or, or managing the finance or building your team. A lot of people are struggling with hiring right now, and, like really hate managing people, or just like don't have that skill set. But doing it in a way where the most important things are happening, even if they're not glamorous, 100% makes the difference on where a company is going to end up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. We've been on for an hour. Tell me how people can follow you, learn from you, interact with you. What's the best way? We'll put it in the show notes, but you should say.
Yeah, definitely. So best way to connect with me, I would say, well, I'm actually redesigning my personal site right now. So hopefully by the time this podcast gets out and, people are listening to it, they can visit Mario, Mario, Cesario, Cesario.com. So that's my site. I am also on Instagram and, pretty active on that at Mario G. Cesario. And my email is mgc@mariogcesario.com.
Very good. Well, Mario, took me like 2 or 3 years, but I appreciate you coming on and
I want
sharing all
to
your
do that.
wisdom.
I want to do it again. I want to be your weekly guest now.
You want to be our 300th guest?
Yeah, I think I want to.
show.
I want to come back. This was a great experience.
Well, I've been talking on different ideas. Maybe we'll start the Mitch and Mario show or something like that. Well, but you got to be, you got to be consistent. You're a very busy guy.
You got to be consistent. That's the name of the game. But
all right, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me. This was awesome.